Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, I'm really glad you are here. I work as a data architect, and on this channel I share practical insights from real world data engineering, data architecture, AI, governance and modern data platforms. Today, I want to share some key takeaways from the Databricks Data and AI Summit 2026 that happened a couple of weeks back. Rather than covering every announcement, I want to focus on what matters most from an enterprise architecture perspective. If you work with Databricks or Azure cloud data platforms, AI or modern data analytics, this summit introduced several ideas that could influence how we design data platforms over the next few years. I use Databricks in my day-to-day work, including the Lakehouse architecture and Unity catalog. Because of that, I was especially interested in understanding not only the new features, but also the overall direction Databricks is taking. As I watched the keynote sessions and reviewed the announcements, one thing became very clear. This year's summit was not simply about releasing the new products. Every announcement supported one larger vision, a vision of simplifying enterprise data architecture by reducing the number of systems, copies of data, and integration pipelines that organizations have to manage. In this video, I will explain that vision in a simple language. We will look at the major announcements. We will look at the major announcements, discuss what they mean for enterprise architects, and also talk about which technologies are available today and which ones are still evolving. Let's get started. Before we look at the technology announcements, let's understand the scale of this event. The Databricks Data and AI Summit has grown into one of the largest conferences focused on data and artificial intelligence. This year, more than 31,000 people attended in person, with another 100,000 joining online, including me, from more than 150 countries. I was spellbound to look at the vibrancy of that event, the size and the sheer volume of the screens and everything. That tells us something very important. Enterprise organizations are no longer experimenting with modern data platforms. They are actively modernizing their architecture, investing in AI, and looking for platforms that can support both. Another interesting number is the company's reported revenue growth. The revenue run rate increased significantly over the past several months, showing strong adoption across enterprises. For me, these numbers are not just business statistics. As architects, they indicate that many organizations are placing strategic workloads on this platform. That means the architectural decisions announced during the summit are likely to influence the broader data industry. Another point that stood out was the variety of technical sessions. There were hundreds of sessions covering data engineering, governance, machine learning, AI agents, application development, security, and modern data architecture. This tells us something else. Databricks is no longer positioning itself as only a data engineering platform. It is becoming a complete enterprise data and AI platform. As someone working in enterprise architecture, that was one of my biggest observations throughout the summit. Now let's talk about what I believe is the central message of the entire summit. The title of this presentation says, "How do you get rid of data islands? Build a lake." This sounds simple, but it describes a problem that almost every large organization faces. Let me explain. Imagine a company that starts with a single application. The operational data is stored in a database. Later, the business wants reporting, so another analytical system is introduced. Then another team wants machine learning. A different platform is added. The security team introduces another platform. Marketing needs customer analytics, so another platform is purchased. So each new business requirement creates another copy of the same data. Soon the organization has multiple databases, multiple pipelines, multiple integration tools and platforms, and different teams managing each one. I've seen this myself in many enterprise environments, including mine. Different departments often solve similar problems independently. Over time, the architecture becomes increasingly complex. Every new system requires another data pipeline. Every pipeline requires monitoring. Every copy introduces synchronization challenges. Soon, people begin asking questions like which system has the correct customer information? Why are the reports showing different numbers? These are common enterprise challenges we all face every day. The vision presented during the summit is to simplify this architecture. Instead of moving data between multiple specialized systems, bring different workloads closer to the same governed data. Instead of creating another copy, use the existing one. Instead of maintaining another integration pipeline, reduce the need for it. Instead of managing multiple disconnected platforms, use a common governance layer. As a data architect, this is probably the most important architectural message from the summit. It is not really replacing every technology overnight. It is about reducing unnecessary complexity over time. If organizations can successfully reduce duplicated data, duplicated infrastructure, and duplicated governance, they can spend more time creating business value instead of maintaining integration pipelines. Throughout this presentation, you will notice that almost every announcement connects back to this single architectural principle. One copy of data, shared governance, fewer systems, simpler architecture. That's it. To organize all of the announcements, Databricks introduced what they call 4C framework. I actually like this approach because it provides a simple way to understand dozens of announcements without getting lost in technical details. Let's look at each one. The first C is context. AI systems cannot understand business information unless they understand the meaning behind the data. For example, if your business user asks an AI assistant to calculate customer margin, what exactly does margin mean? Does it mean gross margin, net margin, or operating margin? Which one is it? The answer depends on the business context. Building that business understanding into AI systems is becoming increasingly important. The second C is control. As AI becomes more capable, governance becomes even more important. Organizations need to know who can access data, which AI agents can perform actions, how sensitive information is protected. Since I work with Unity Catalog, I found this area especially interesting. Governance is expanding beyond data. Now it includes AI models, AI agents, external tools, and many other application enterprise assets. The third C is choice. Many organizations want flexibility. They don't want their data locked into one technology or one vendor. Supporting open standards and open data formats allow organizations to continue evolving their architecture while protecting long-term investments. Finally, the fourth C is cost. This is something every organization is thinking about, right? AI workloads can become expensive very quickly. Managing infrastructure, compute resources, storage, and AI inference costs is now part of enterprise architecture. Throughout the summit, many announcements focused on simplifying architecture while also reducing operational cost. From my perspective, these four areas summarize the entire event. Context helps AI understand the business. Control ensures governance and security. Choice protects long-term flexibility, and cost keeps the architecture sustainable. As we continue through the remaining slides, you will notice that every major announcement fits into one or more of these four categories. That makes it much easier to understand not only what was announced but why it matters too. In this section, we will start looking at the actual technologies beginning with the data layer where some of the biggest architectural changes were introduced. Now let's move into what I believe is the most important technical section of the summit. Everything starts with the data layer. If we don't design the data layer correctly, every application, dashboard, AI model, and business process built on top of it becomes more difficult to manage. One thing I liked about this year's announcements is that they all focused on simplifying the foundation. Let's look at the four major announcements. The first one is Lakebase. Lakebase is Databricks' new operational database. Traditionally, enterprise applications use relational databases for transactions, while analytic platforms use separate data warehouses or data lakes. Because these systems are separate, organizations build ETL or change data capture pipelines to move data from one system to another. As a data architect, I have seen these pipelines become one of the biggest operational challenges in modern enterprises. Pipelines fail, schemas change, data arrives late all the time. Different teams own different systems. Eventually, more time is spent maintaining integrations than delivering new business capabilities. Lakebase attempts to simplify this complicated architecture. Instead of separating operational data from analytical data, it stores operational workloads directly on open object storage while maintaining PostgreSQL compatibility. This vision is straightforward. Reduce the distance between operational systems and analytical systems. One copy of data, fewer synchronization processes, less operational complexity. Now, this does not mean every enterprise database should immediately move to Lakebase. Every organization has different requirements, but it is an interesting architectural direction that could reduce integration effort over time. The second announcement is LTAP, which stands for Lake Transactional and Analytical Processing. Personally, I think this is one of the most ambitious announcements from the entire summit. For many years, enterprise architecture has separated two types of these workloads: operational processing, where applications insert and update data; analytical processing, where business users run reports and dashboards. These workloads usually require different technologies because their performance requirements are different. Databricks is proposing something different. Instead of maintaining two copies of the same data, keep both transactional and analytical workloads on the same storage layer. Operational transactions are handled through Lakebase. Analytical queries are handled through a new engine called Raiden. Both access the same underlying data. If this vision becomes successful, organizations may eventually reduce their dependency on traditional change data capture pipelines. That could simplify many enterprise architectures. However, I also want to be very realistic here. This capability is still evolving. Combining transactional and analytical processing efficiently is one of the hardest challenges in the database engineering world. Many companies have tried solving this problem over the years. So while I find this announcement quite exciting, I think it will take time before we understand how it performs in large production environments. The third announcement focuses on real-time analytics. Today, many organizations maintain separate platforms for interactive dashboards and low latency analytics. That usually means additional infrastructure, additional operational cost, and another technology stack to support. Databricks introduced Lakehouse RT to address this challenge. The goal is to deliver very fast query performance directly on Delta Lake and Apache Iceberg without requiring a separate serving layer. Again, notice the architectural pattern here. Instead of introducing another specialized platform, the objective is to extend the capabilities of the existing lakehouse. This continues the same message we discussed earlier: reduce the number of platforms, reduce duplicated infrastructure, and simplify operations. The fourth announcement may not sound exciting at first, but I think it's strategically important. For several years, organizations debated whether to choose Delta Lake or Apache Iceberg. These are table formats. Many vendors supported one format but not the other. This often created unnecessary discussions during architecture design. This year, Databricks announced support for writing to both formats. From my perspective, this is good news for customers. It gives organizations greater flexibility. It reduces concerns about vendor lock-in. It also allows enterprises to make architecture decisions based on business requirements rather than file format limitations. Overall, these four announcements point in the same direction. Keep one governed copy of data. Reduce unnecessary movement, reduce duplicate systems, simplify enterprise architecture. As someone who works with Databricks all the time, I believe this architectural direction makes a lot of sense. The next question becomes, if all our data stays in one place, how do we safely share it with others? That brings us to the next announcement. One of the biggest challenges in enterprise data sharing is duplication. Whenever another team or another business unit or another organization needs data, the traditional solution has been to create another copy of the same data. More copies usually mean more storage, more governance, more security concerns, and more synchronization problems. Open sharing tries to solve this differently. Instead of copying data, organizations can securely share access to the same data. That means consumers always see the latest version without creating another pipeline. Another interesting announcement is that the protocol has been contributed to the Linux Foundation. From an enterprise perspective, this is important because open standards encourage broader adoption across the industry. Another capability I found valuable is that open sharing is not limited to structured tables. It also supports sharing AI assets such as prompts, models, and agent capabilities. As organizations build AI applications, sharing these assets becomes just as important as sharing data. Another feature that caught my attention is Secure Connect. Instead of exposing storage directly to external users, organizations can securely provide access while keeping their storage private. For enterprises working across multiple cloud providers or hybrid environments, this can significantly simplify data sharing. Once again, the architectural message is consistent. Do not move data unless there is a strong reason to move it. Bring users to the data whenever possible. One topic that I believe will become increasingly important over the next few years is the semantic layer. Large language models, LLMs, are becoming more capable every month, but they still need business context. They need to understand what business terms actually mean inside your organization. Without that business understanding, AI can produce inconsistent answers. This is where semantic technologies become important. During the summit, Databricks introduced Genie ontology. The goal is to automatically understand business concepts from your existing data assets and make that knowledge available to AI. At the same time, other cloud providers announced their own approaches. Some are focused on open specifications, others provide managed services. Although the implementation differs, the industry direction is becoming very clear. Everyone recognizes that business context will become one of the most valuable assets for enterprise AI. As architects, this is something we should watch closely. Building AI is no longer only about choosing the right model. It is equally about organizing business knowledge in a way AI systems can understand. I believe this area will become one of the biggest differentiators for enterprise platforms over the next several years. Now let's move on to one of the most exciting parts of the summit, enterprise AI agents. During the last year, almost every technology company has introduced AI assistants. What interested me at this summit was that Databricks focused not only on chat experiences but also on enterprise ready agent platforms. The first group of announcements is the Genie family. These capabilities allow business users to ask questions, automate tasks, create applications, and interact with enterprise data using natural language. From an enterprise perspective, this can help business teams become more self-service while still operating within governance policies. Another announcement was Agentbricks. Instead of simply using AI agents, developers can build, evaluate, monitor, and develop their own enterprise agents. As someone working in architecture, I appreciate this approach. Building an AI prototype is relatively easy. Running thousands of AI agents reliably in production is much more challenging. Agree? Monitoring, evaluation, governance, memory management, security, and deployment all become very much essential. Agentbricks focuses on solving those production challenges. Finally, there is Omnigent. I found this particularly interesting because it takes an open source approach. Rather than replacing existing coding assistants, it helps multiple AI coding agents work together. Organizations can continue using different AI models while adding governance and operational control on top. Across all three announcements, one message stood out to me. Enterprise AI is moving beyond chatbots. The next generation of AI will consist of autonomous agents capable of performing business tasks while operating under enterprise governance. That transition will require strong architecture, strong governance, and well managed data platforms. As architects, I think this is where we can provide the greatest value. Technology will continue evolving quickly, but designing secure, governed, and scalable AI platforms will remain one of our most important responsibilities. In the next section, we will look at governance and enterprise applications where many of these AI capabilities come together. Let's move to governance. For many years, governance has mostly been associated with access control, security policies, and regulatory compliance. Those areas are still important, but enterprise AI introduces a new challenge. While we no longer governing only data, now we also need to govern AI models, AI agents, prompts, external tools, and automated business actions. That is a much bigger responsibility. I have also created a course on master data governance with 30 real world problems. The link is given in the description. If you are interested in it, you can explore that as well. One announcement that caught my attention was the continued expansion of Unity Catalog. When Unity Catalog was first introduced, many organizations viewed it mainly as a centralized metadata and governance solution. Today, its role is much broader. It is becoming the governance layer for the entire ecosystem, not only data tables, but also AI models, AI agents, external services, business assets. From my working experience with Unity Catalog, I believe this is the right direction. As organizations adopt AI, governance cannot remain an afterthought. It must become part of the architecture from the beginning. Another capability introduced during the summit is Unity AI Gateway. Think of it as a control point for AI activity. It provides visibility into model usage, agent execution, external tool access, and operational monitoring. This becomes especially important when AI agents begin performing business operations rather than simply answering questions. One feature I particularly like is contextual service policies. Imagine an AI agent trying to modify production data or access highly regulated information. Instead of allowing every action automatically, organizations can define policies that require additional approval before sensitive operations are performed. This introduces an important balance between automation and governance. Another area worth mentioning is the cost governance. AI usage can grow very quickly. Organizations need visibility into spending across departments, projects, and users. Providing cost controls directly within the governance platform helps organizations scale AI responsibly. From an architecture perspective, I see governance becoming one of the biggest competitive advantages over the next several years. Building AI is becoming easier. Governing AI correctly will become much harder. And I believe this is where enterprise platforms will differentiate themselves. So far, we have discussed the data platform, AI, sharing, and governance. The next step is enabling business applications. This is another area where I noticed an important strategic shift. Instead of only providing infrastructure, Databricks is expanding into complete business solutions. Let's look at few examples. The first one is LakeWatch. Many organizations use specialized security platforms to collect logs, monitor threats, and investigate security events. Traditionally, these platforms require separate infrastructure and another copy of operational data. LakeWatch introduces a different approach. Security data remains within the lakehouse architecture, allowing organizations to use AI agents and analytics without creating additional data movement. Whether every organization adopts this model remains to be seen. However, the architectural direction is very clear. Reduce specialized systems wherever possible. The second announcement is Customer Lake. Customer information often exists across CRM systems, marketing platforms, websites, loyalty programs, and operational applications. Bringing all of that information together has traditionally required complex customer data platforms. Customer Lake attempts to embed those capabilities directly within the lakehouse. Again, the familiar pattern appears. Instead of creating another data repository, use the existing governed data. Finally, Databricks introduced additional capabilities for building enterprise applications directly on the platform. Rather than exploring data into another application environments, organizations can build modern business applications closer to the data itself. As a data architect, I think this is an interesting evolution. For years, we separated operational systems, analytics, AI, governance, and applications into different platforms. The announcements from this summit suggest that these capabilities are gradually coming together within one ecosystem. Whether every organization chooses this approach will depend on its architectural strategy, existing investments, and business priorities. But it is certainly a direction worth watching. My five key takeaways from this summit before we finish is I would like to summarize the five biggest lessons I took away from this year's summit. The first takeaway is that enterprise architecture is moving toward fewer data islands. Almost every announcement focused on reducing duplicate systems, duplicate data, and duplicate pipelines. The second takeaway is that LTAP is one of the most ambitious architectural ideas announced this year. If it delivers on its long term vision, it could significantly simplify modern data architectures. However, it is still an evolving capability, and production adoption will ultimately determine its success. The third key takeaway is that business context is becoming essential for enterprise AI. Models alone are no longer enough. AI systems need to understand business terminology, business relationships, and organizational knowledge. That is why semantic technologies will become increasingly important. The fourth takeaway is that governance is expanding. Governance is no longer limited to databases and access controls. It is now includes AI models, AI agents, external services, operational policies, and cost management. Organizations that invest in governance today will be better prepared as AI adoption continues to grow. My final takeaway is perhaps the most important. Not every announcement is fully mature today. Some capabilities are generally available. Others are still in preview or under active development. As architects, we should always evaluate new technologies carefully. Vendor announcements describe a vision. Production implementation reveal the reality. I believe the next 12 months will show which of these innovations become standard enterprise architecture patterns. So, what is my overall opinion of the Databricks Data and AI Summit 2026? I think this year's summit presented one of the clearest architectural visions I have seen in recent years. Rather than introducing unrelated features, almost every announcement supported the same objective: reduce complexity, reduce unnecessary data movement, strengthen governance, enable enterprise AI on a unified platform. Whether every capability succeeds remains to be seen, but the architectural direction is very clear. As someone working with Databricks and modern data platforms, I believe many of these ideas will influence enterprise architecture decisions for years to come. If you are a data engineer, data architect, AI engineer, or anyone working with modern data platforms, I would encourage you to keep watching how these technologies evolve over the coming year. Some of today's announcements could become tomorrow's standard practices. Thank you for spending your time with me today. If you found this discussion helpful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. My goal is to share practical insights from real enterprise projects, modern data architecture, AI, governance, Microsoft technologies, Databricks, and everything shaping the future of enterprise data. Happy learning. Thank you.